This podcast is sponsored by the Hubble Difference Foundation.
Hi, I'm Harvey Hubbell. This is Show and Tell. Today we're going to be talking with Dr. Tracy Weeden. We want to talk about lifelong learning. You're one of my good friends and guides to the world. Can you tell me how you became you? What was it like when you were a kid growing up?
Well, first of all, I started out as a white girl. Tracy White Weeden. And oldest of seven, teased by my father, who told me because of my thin legs, I was going to be a teacher because I carried my pencils with me. Be careful what you speak over your children's friends because what was I called to? Education, sure enough. So growing up in inner city Detroit, never dreamed I'd end up in Houston, Texas, where I'm serving currently as president and CEO of Night House Education Center. And I've been here for almost 10 years. I can't believe how the time blew by. But I've been fortunate enough to be everything from a classroom English and theater arts teacher to a central office leader and a campus leader. Worked nationally for Scholastic. Love to read. So that was sort of a dream job to share the gift of literacy that way. And then I think the most eye-opening part of my journey was seeing the literacy crisis nationally. You know, as a leader in a district, I had my blinders on about our work and our needs and our children. But then I saw the same issue everywhere, that the critical mass of children were not achieving at the level of academic ability they should as a skilled reader, writer, and sharer of the language through speaking. And so I was just blown away by that. And that's when the door opened for me to come to Night House Education Center. So being able through a nonprofit to scale work with an amazing team has been really it's such a blessing to see how lives are transformed and changed through literacy as a human right. I position it as a human rights issue. And that's underscored when we look at our prison system and recognize the high levels of illiteracy among inmates. So my work is all about unlocking literacy for everyone, and not just literacy, but educational opportunity for every boy and girl and adult.
Everyone, I know, and I appreciate that with you. And I know we've talked before in the past about your introduction to reading and your love of books. I mean, you could have been a guy who just never introduced to books, but you were introduced to books when you were a kid.
Yes, that was my mom. She, there was a tight budget with 7 children, but she made sure my dad bought Encyclopedia Britannica. You might have had that in your home as well. Well, we read that for fun from book to book all the way through. And the series that came along with it, Animals Do the Strangest Things. And what I didn't realize was that as we were voraciously reading these books, we were building so much background knowledge. We lived in the library, and we would come home with a wheelbarrow full of books. And I like to say before Oprah's book club, there was Bessie's book club. So we would read books, exchange books, talk about books. I spent so many hours, during the summer just reading and reading and reading and reading. And it was an escape for me because as a kid who was bullied in school, I could pick up a book and I could go to England or I could go to Mars. I could go anywhere through a book. So it's interesting that my great escape is also a great escape for people in the 21st century knowledge economy. Literacy it gives you life.
Well, your mom is Bessie?
Bessie. Yes, Bessie White.
Okay, so here's the crazy thing. Here's the thing. I don't know. How long have we known each other for? We've known each other for a long time.
I met you, I think, like maybe the first time I went to IDA almost 10 years ago.
Okay. So we've known each other, but I love that story so your mom made sure you and your family got involved in books, got the encyclopedia for you, got the animals book for you. But there's another part of the story which is incredible. You taught your mom how to read, right?
Well, actually, my mom, great backstory. My daughter graduated from high school and we had a celebration in our home. And my mom flew in from Detroit. And I saw her with this look of consternation on her face. I could read my mom. and I knew something was really troubling her, and she was filling out a card, and I said, "Mom, what's wrong?" And she said, "I know I've misspelled words in this card, and Lizzie's going to hang on to this." And she was just feeling bad about that. So I said, "Mom, let me see." So I looked, and I said, "Mom, it's fine." But it struck me because I had been leading at Nye House for over 8 years. We have an adult literacy program that provides free literacy instruction, and all of it's delivered by certified academic language therapists, free for adults. So I said, "Mom, does it bother you that you still have these gaps?" And she said, "Yes, it does." I said, "You can be a part of our adult literacy program. We have a virtual version now. Would you like to participate?" So she was screened, and she had a number of the red flags for dyslexia. So all these years, my mom, who's in her 80s, had accepted that this was just the way it was going to be, but now she's learning all the spelling rules. And that was the key for her. She wanted to be able to spell and understand how words are built. And she loves it. So little did I know that my journey would be full circle for this woman who promoted literacy and liberty for us, that would be literacy and liberty for her.
And that's an incredible story. That's full circle. But the other thing is you have a virtual thing. So anybody who wants to, no matter where they are, they don't have to be in Detroit, they don't have to be in Houston, they could be in Omaha, they could be in Ohio, they could be in Oklahoma, any place that begins with an O or an A or a V. Right? I mean, you're telling me. So tell me, how do you get into this virtual class? How do they find it?
Please feel free to call 713-664-7676. Ask for our adult literacy department, and someone will be able to support you. The beauty of our program is that it's not a one-size-fits-all program. For some adults, they have no foundational skills. We'll take you. For other adults, like my mom, you have gaps. We'll take you. But you do not have to live with that weight. We are a village. We're your village, and we want to lift you through literacy. We have from 16 to a gentleman in his early 90s who had never learned to read, who is doing a phenomenal job becoming a skilled reader. Never too late.
Okay, so here's what I think. I mean, I know that your mom introduced you to books and readings and libraries and dictionaries and encyclopedias and animal books, and well, I know you have a passion. You have a passion for it. So I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. But I think, so I think you're stamped at birth. I think you're the goddess of good. I think you're sometimes, I know you're heavenly sent sometimes. I know you get messages from greater planes. So how did you become this educator who is known all over the United States and teach everybody at all kinds of different ages? Is it something that you were born with? And I don't mean to be asking the same question again, but I'm asking.
No, that's a great question. That's one of the most powerful questions I have ever been asked, frankly, Harvey. And I have to say, I believe it was my destiny to do what I'm doing now. It was my destiny, Harvey. And there's a quote I'll share that is sort of defining for me. It says, and I do believe there is a higher power. There's so many things I've been through in my life that there's no explanation, that I have been through these fires that I don't even smell like smoke. And it says that he can take the weak and the base things, the things that are despised, that no flesh should glory in, to confound the wise. So how in the world could a little inner city girl in Detroit who was afraid of her shadow stand on stages and speak to thousands without any hesitation? Each juncture of my journey, from when I was bullied in school, allowed me to understand the vulnerability of children and how they need educators who are there not just to educate them, but to protect them socially, emotionally. I have no regrets about that part of my journey. It is the pain that fuels my passion. When I was in middle school, which is a really wretched time, the time for young people, I would never want to go back to middle school. But I had these aspirational adults who saw greatness in me, my cheerleading coach, and a cousin who taught me modern dance. And so I was in these talent shows and went all the way to the national level. This kid who has knocking my knees knocking together, doing things afraid until I wasn't. And then even in high school, having experiences where a friend of mine, who was my closest friend, happened to be half Mexican, half white, and navigating those main streets of Detroit. But we had this vision for ourselves that there was something in us that was big and powerful. And so we supported each other. And sure enough, he went off to do great work at DC, um, in the space of security for our country, and I went off to do things in the education realm. So we're still connected today. Um, each phase had a purpose. Going through a battle with cancer and having faith that I was going to get through that, and on the other side, again, it gives me a special desire to support and come alongside people fighting that battle. Anything I've ever gone through, I had a choice, and my mother taught me this. It can either make you bitter or it can make you better. My father taught me that. I would say also it's operating with integrity. And this is what I saw from my father that I think was the biggest example for me. He was an atheist, but then when I was 4 years old, he had an encounter that changed him so dramatically that I wanted what he had. My dad wanted a navigation system, and for our family, it was the Bible. My parents came out of abject poverty, very dysfunctional, challenging circumstances, and they had a choice to replicate that pain or to rise above it. So I carry a mantle that's about helping to break yokes and break chains, whether they're educational, social, emotional, or purpose driven. I want people to be able to be their very best. And I wouldn't be here if I had not had navigators who were, I think, divinely appointed to intersect with my life and feed my soul and my spirit in a way that now I'm in a position to do that for other people. I mean, I wouldn't want to be a multi-billionaire, lonely with no purpose. I love my life. I love my purpose and my calling. It's all about what we give, not what we're receiving. Because at the end of the day, we can't take the stuff with us. It's the people who are our legacy, who live on beyond us, that we invest our pour our life into. So in a sense, we are the riches that the world needs when we're walking in our purpose. And we pour ourselves into the people who are on our watch. So I'm so honored that you invited me into this space because this gives me a way of loving through words. Every word we speak is a seed. It will produce weeds, it will produce life. And I want to be someone who speaks life into people. And I don't care what the circumstances look like, they are subject to change if we will press into our purpose as human beings who walk in outgoing concern for our fellow man. I don't care what suit you were sent here in. I'm here to love.
And you demonstrate that. You demonstrate that when I run into you. I run into you at conferences. I run into you. I saw you. I must have seen you since Black Literacy Matters last year.
Yeah.
And the IDA or any of these places, and you're a legend, and you're the good guy. So let's just go back to when you get to Nyhouse. Nyhouse. I always say it wrong.
Nyhouse.
Nyhouse.
Yes, you said it perfectly.
Did I say it? You know why? Because you taught me over the last couple of years. Because I always say it wrong.
But I want to say one thing. Anything good you see in me is God.
Well, I know that. I mean, you've been on our panel.
Yes,
You've been on our panel when we've after we played our film, and I mean, I see you gather your strength, gather your energy, and I see the Spirit get into you and begin to go. I mean,
I'm just a vessel.
You're just
and
a
we
vessel.
all are. We all are.
I think you're like the Dalai Lama, anyhow, with this whole CEO. That's what I think. I think it's like the Dalai Lama is the rebirth. Okay, so what's your favorite number?
My favorite number was the number 7, but my new favorite number is the number 9. One of the most important things in my life is my quiet time with God in the morning where I refocus and recenter. And I had a sense that the season I'm in professionally was coming to a close. So I asked for confirmation. And as I was awakening from sleep, I saw 3 blazing nines. And the number 9 signifies the end of things and the beginning of new things. So not only did I get 1 9, I saw 3 nines. So I have that kind of relationship where I hear these, I call them holy whispers that I follow and what gives me peace. The whole world can tell me I'm crazy, but if I know it's the path, then I take that path. And it was really important for me. One of the most difficult times for any of us, I think, was COVID. But I call that the divine timeout for all of us. It changed things for people in their personal, professional lives, work lives, all kinds of things.
Well, first of all, you know what people said to me? They said when COVID happened, they're like, "Who would have ever thought that this?" I'm like, "How about anybody who ever reads history? How about anybody who understands?" We were just set for a great reset with COVID, and COVID really taught us a lot of lessons. And when we each have our lessons, what kind of lessons? What happened over in Nyhouse with you and the team during COVID?
Wow, a lot happened. You never know how strong a tea bag is until you put it in hot water. That was hot water for all of us, and hot water is not comfortable when it's too hot, right? But it for me, I have to start with myself and introspection. It put me in a timeout that helped me to really slow down and evaluate my life. And I think it did that for a lot of people. It caused us to stop and reevaluate our delivery system. So I remember in my quiet time that I was describing earlier that is so necessary to me, that I was praying and saying, what do we do? How do we stay in service to our community? And the metaphor I received is you're going into a COVID chrysalis. The butterfly is my favorite symbol of all symbols because it represents how a little grubby caterpillar is not the final definition of that butterfly. In that evolution of being in the cocoon or the chrysalis, it becomes something that is astonishing, that can ride the winds, right? And so when my team and I, with that metaphor in our minds, worked on a delivery system, we were able to reach Hong Kong. The first time we were able to reach a continent outside of the United States, or a country outside of the United States, I should say. And now we are touching 6 different countries beyond the United States. That's 7. It's amazing. Our first opportunity to serve a state department, the Alabama Department of Education, happened in the middle of COVID chrysalis. Who could have predicted that? So the power of evolution and change and transformation is if we will take the next step of faith on our personal journey and our what we've been called to do to bring light to the world, it'll start to unfold and in ways we couldn't even predict. So now we're working with 3 state departments. If we had not gone through that chrysalis moment, we would not have evolved into the organization we are today. And I believe it's the greatest days for Nyhouse are yet ahead of this organization. So we just have to have faith and not lose hope and just take the next step, determined to do what we've been put on earth to do.
Well, that's the positive way of looking at it, and that's the whole thing of being a lifelong learner or a fixed mindset, because this is where we are and we're stuck here.
So even in the midst of things that give us grave consternation, we should never bow down to fear. I love this acronym for fear. Fear is false evidence appearing real. At times we do not step out into our purpose because we let fear stop us instead of operating with faith. And I have an acronym for that, which is focused adults intervening tenaciously with hope. And hope is an action word. It means we take that next step, and the next step, even if we have to do it with our knees knocking together. And we will be astonished when we operate that way. But we have to feed our own souls which is the oxygen mask, right? And then we're in a position to give oxygen to the people around us who need it as well.
I know you're not dyslexic because you have all these acronyms you use all the time, and I would always forget those things. You know, I was always, and you know, when we're talking about lifelong learners and your whole journey is and you go to these nines a lot. This is why you're an expert in this stuff. You know these nines. And my favorite New York Times, one of my favorite New York Times cartoons is a white, you know, nice table in a nice restaurant, a candle, and you know, a couple of cocktails, glass of wine or champagne or something. And there's this caterpillar, and he's looking over at the butterfly. He says, "You've changed." And the butterfly says, "We all do." So that's the thing about the lifelong learner. But so the more I talk with you, the more I know it's like you're like an action adventure educator. You know, like wherever you go, it's like, this looks like this could be the end. This could be the end of Dr. Tracy Weeden. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're reborn again.
The next evolution. Oh my gosh, I love that.
What about you? All of a sudden now you have another one of these phases again. You're back at number nine. You're back in it's the end, but it's the beginning. It's the alpha omega. What's going to happen next to you? What's going to happen?
It's a new chrysalis. And the new chrysalis, it's as if all these little pieces and seemingly discrepant parts of my life are being brought together as one gestalt, one whole. My passion is for people to walk in purpose. That's it. And so you will hear soon, and I'd love to come back for the formal launch of a concept, a nonprofit that I'm establishing that will address the mind, body, and spirit of people, whether they are a child in a classroom, an educator, a family member, because it's families too, and the community. There's a lot of change in the air right now. And there's a quote by Einstein that's pretty powerful. He said, "In the time of great crisis is great opportunity." And so I'm an eternal optimist as well, a person of faith. So I'm looking for the opportunities in the midst of all of this change. Things are not going to slow down. So we have to have a mindset that is, like you said, Harvey, a growth mindset. Not fixed on the things that are uncomfortable that we don't like, but just what are the opportunities in the middle of this challenge? So I'm very excited to hopefully come back and share in more detail what that's going to look like. But my successor has been identified. I gave my board a year's notice to find the right leader to step in to this space. I will always love that Nighthouse team. They are amazing. And I'm excited to see what they will do in taking it to the very next level, because it's about the mission, literacy for all, regardless of zip code, regardless of country. It doesn't matter. You know, with AI now reshaping our world, it's even more crucial that people be literate for life. So that will always be the heartbeat of my purpose. But there are other aspects that are starting to unfold, and I'll be able to tell you a lot more soon.
Literacy and justice for all, right? So
that's right.
So you and I have talked about, you know, we've known each other for a long time. We talk about working together, doing another screening. As we've said, you've been on at least one panel, maybe two panels of ours, and you know, I love, you know, our film doesn't teach people how to read. You teach people how to read. Our film brings decision makers, policy makers together with educators and parents, reading specialists, school superintendents, Board of Education. People can see like, hey, wait a minute, the science of reading, we could do something like that. So we've talked about working together in Texas, which I hope we can do. In new things happening. We have over 270 requests right now. So we really just love, there's so many different ways to do it. There's so many different ways, and because everybody is in the literacy crisis situation, they're all working at it from a different angle. And it's beautiful because all we're trying to do is teach kids how to read. but there's so many different angles to do it. And I think that's where, no matter how down it can look, being positive and being a lifelong learner and just saying, wait a minute, that's why you're such a great educator, not just teaching somebody how to read, but spiritually with the fixed mindset versus the lifelong learning mindset, saying, oh no, it's hopeless. Well, it's never hopeless.
That's right. And it's never too late. And, I describe adult literacy as the canary in the mine. And here in Houston, the only mayor's office for adult literacy resides here where I live. Part of what we've got to do is work smarter and not just harder all the time. We, like you said, are all doing different things, but it can be very siloed. And it's time to organize ourselves around this. When I think about the things that may be divisive in our country, if there's one thing we should be able to rally around, it is literacy for all. And if we did that, we would be internationally competitive in a way we can't even imagine. There would be abundance for everybody. Literacy is the key that unlocks the future to this country. So I'm hoping that there are voices and ambassadors of change that will rally us around this as a key of the American dream. It can be that catalyst for our country.
You're so given of, and you're so committed to the cause of teaching reading and writing. But what do you do for yourself? How do you take care of the vessel?
Oh, I love that. So some of the important disciplines for me, definitely first thing in the morning to avoid taking that phone and to start scrolling and filling my spirit with all the darkness that is so easily reported on. I want to fill myself with light. How can I shed light if I don't have light inside of myself? So my time with God is the most precious, joyful, beautiful time. And it's a very fluid thing. It can be listening to songs that are full of hope and love. It can be reading. For me, the Bible is my blueprint. It can be praying with other people who I can say, I have this weight and I need you to come into agreement with me to help me press through this. I have a village of people that I hold very, very close who walk the same way I walk, which is intentionally in the light of love. I like to have fun. I love plays. I love to dance. I love to read. I think it's so important to make sure we're not consumed with all of the bad reports that we get out there, because words are containers of power. And if we're not careful, there are all these landmines that are planted inside of us and they can be triggered. So we have to plant life in our own garden. We think of ourselves as a garden. That's what I do. The other thing I love is to see other people operating in their gifts. That gives me joy. And it might seem like I'm giving, but the reward for me is I see Harvey's amazing film, his amazing documentary. And I'm like, look at this masterpiece. That gives me joy. And that's where my strength is. Joy and strength are directly connected. Hopelessness and fear and despondency are also intrinsically connected. We get to choose which path are we going to take. So I'm excited for the future of NIHouse, but I'm also excited about the future of our literacy village. It's exceptional. Harvey, I absolutely love you. You're like a brother to me. These are people of such goodwill who are sincerely making a difference in the world, one bold and brave step at a time. And we need each other. We need each other to navigate the unknown that's ahead. But I believe that if we operate with outgoing concern for our fellow man, it will work out in the end.
I kind of think we're an anti-corporation corporation. I run into you guys, and it is like, the guardrails, and you're bouncing ideas off of, these great educators. You guys are great educators, great researchers. There's a great neuroscientists hang out with us, and people go up on stage and they do their presentation, but then we get to break some bread and and talking like, where are we? What's happening here? What's happening here? And it's like, isn't it like, don't you love that game when you're a kid, connect the dots?
Yes, I did. I loved it.
Because
then it started to manifest, whatever that thing was, right?
Yeah, it's like a lion with a ball or a clown or something. Like, I didn't know that. Jeez, nobody told me that. But
I loved that when I was a kid. I still would like it. I haven't done it in a while.
So, last words of any thoughts or inspiration for anybody having a hard time, not just in our education field, but just out there in general. What advice would you give people?
The advice I would give people is to think about the day that you will take your last breath. Because, death and taxes we can count on in this world. What do you want your life to count for? And over your head, I see the word dream, Harvey. Keep moving towards the dream. I know that there are challenges and difficulties, and there's just plain old evil in the world. But we get to choose whether we're going to be a person who bows down to evil or stands up for truth and what's right. And at the end of the day, we will not have regrets when we lay our head on our pillow at night for a day that we, just take it one day at a time. We cannot, tomorrow's not promised to any one of us, 24 hours. Live your best 24 hours, one day at a time. Speak truth to power and do not bow down to evil. Do not bow down to evil. It exists, but at times the light shines the brightest. Actually, not at times, it always does. The light shines the brightest in the darkest times. So be the light.
Be the light. I love that.
Harvey, one of the things I want to say is that spirit is thicker than DNA. And I am so grateful that I have been blessed to have my life intersect with yours in this age we're in. And your light is luminous, and I am so grateful for you. Keep pressing on, brother. I love you back.
Keep it on, my good sister. I love you very much, and thank you for all the hard work you do. Love you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Harvey.
Thank you, love.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Much love to you and your team.
All right, y'all come back now, you hear?